Hey everybody, so I want to do a video today about my first semester thesis from my high school apologetics class. This was not your ordinary apologetics class. I had this at Fort Bend Christian Academy, and it was kind of an in-depth study on really arguments for God's existence and different facets and features of philosophical theology. And so it was a really fun experience, got to work with a lot of great people, and just learned so much. But really, the one of the things that I appreciated, at least about what I'm about to present today, is that I was really able to do this at an academic level and not at a popular sort of rendition. So it's been about 4 years since I've kind of written, composed, and presented the material for this thesis. The thesis defense time that we used to defend this thesis was about 15 minutes per person, so there was just no way to go into any of the depth that is contained here. So what I really want to do is just go through, and in this first video segment, I'm going to be reading some of the introduction, just kind of telling you what the book is about, and kind of just going through in that fashion. And hopefully this will be encouraging, and it will be useful to people. Since this is kind of a serious academic, or at least more academic nature, some of the things that I'm going to say will require a lot of context. So yeah, that's don't feel bad if I'm just going to kind of like go into it and assume a lot of things that normally I wouldn't. So that's probably all that I have to say about that. The other thing is, it is very difficult to match a tie with this shirt. So I hope I don't look back in 30 years and think, oh my goodness, what is he doing? But hopefully that won't be a problem. So yeah, let's just get right into it. The title of this thesis is called God and Modality, and the subtitle is an excursus on the ontological proof. So a couple things to notice here. This is the first part in a two-part sort of series that I do on my part on apologetics. And since this is installment number 1, it's God and Modality. Okay, the next thesis topic will be I'll say it at another time, but this is God and Modality. Okay, and the reason that we're talking about modality, modal logic, and different modes of existence is simply because some of the strongest ontological arguments are modal ontological arguments. And the reason for this is because they kind of have an ability to intimidate people. When you just see, a bunch of symbols and therefore God exists, and you don't really understand anything, a lot of people are led to believe, oh, this just, it is true what the people are saying. And that's not necessarily correct. So there really is more leeway than people think, at least from a philosophical perspective, but I do try to go in and analyze the logic here also. So the subtitle says it's an excursus on the ontological proof, meaning we're going to be going very in depth. And I notice I use the word ontological proof instead of ontological argument. That's because in academic philosophy, logicians and philosophers make distinctions between arguments and proofs. Okay, and the way that I always remember this, I saw this when my freshman year of college. So after I got out, I saw this sort of ATM thing where the premises of your proof are either an axiom, a tautology, or they follow from most ponens. But at this point, the reason that I was making the distinction proof was because there's a book called Ontological Proofs Today, and I got that, and so I'm reading through it, and I'm looking, it's like, oh yeah, so there's a distinction between a proof and an argument, and the proofs are more formal. And so I'm not going to spend too much time going into that. We can talk about it later. It's been 4 years since I've looked at this stuff, as I said earlier. So I probably don't remember all the distinctions between a proof and an argument, but I can definitely tell you that's what I'm going for. And I'll probably spell it out in this thesis. So yes, I put the author here and then 2016 because that was that first semester, the 2016 semester. So my senior year was 2016, 2017. So I graduated in 2017, and that was a lot of fun and just so much good stuff. Some of it was difficult, some of it was fun, some of it was stressful, but when it came to apologetics, there was not a lot that I felt that was difficult or stressful. It was a bunch of fun for me. I think some of the other people in that class had, at least in my opinion, there was stress there because it wasn't sort of their art form or their specialty. But I really do like this stuff, and so yeah, I'm not claiming to have absolute truth or certainty, but I try to do my best, and hopefully that'll come through. So yeah, God and Modality, Exercises on the Ontological Proof, 2016. So I'm opening it up here, and first couple pages are blank. So I say the name of the high school that I'm submitting it to. I say this is a thesis that's submitted to the teacher and students of the Advanced Apologetics class. And the thing that's nice about this is really to the past and present and also future students. But what I'm doing here is kind of more of a standalone work. So in the submitting of the grade, yes, it's people who are in this class can look at it regardless of where they are. But additionally, I plan to probably develop this a little bit more, and that this right here is obviously not for a grade. So, and this is way past any of that, and it's good stuff. So, yeah, this is the Department of Worldviews and Apologetics. This is that senior class, and yeah, December 2016 was when we had to get all this finished. So. I want to just go into sort of the table of contents and give you kind of a high-level plan of what I'm doing here. So the first sort of division, I'll just go through the 4 divisions first, and then we can maybe make a little bit more sense. So the first 4 divisions are this. We've got an introduction. We're going to do a historical analysis of the ontological argument so we can know what it is that's actually going on, the context behind it. Because you can't just, again, like I say, you would think this is obvious, but I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people just throw stuff out there. They'll just put proofs on the board or something with no context whatsoever. And it's like, you can't do that, all right? You literally can't do that. You can do it, but it is... it's disrespectful to the entire field, and it's not right. It shouldn't be done like that. So I'm going to go through the historical analysis and then the thesis proof and the coda. So those are the 4 parts: introduction, historical analysis, thesis proof, and the coda. And then I have also an appendix A. This is of some logical symbols, and then I give a bibliography. So I wasn't originally going to put an appendix in here, but the reason that I did was because basically what I was trying to do was, I wasn't going to do it, but people told me, they're like, Luke, no one is going to understand these logical symbols if you just throw them out there. And I was like, yeah, okay, you're going to need some introduction to logic. So let me check the camera time here. So yeah, that's why I have an appendix. So those are the 4 sections. What I could do is I could go through, I could expand the historical analysis and thesis proof, because those are in the table of contents, that's what I expound here. But basically for the historical analysis, what I do is I go by periods of time. Different people do historical analyses in different ways, but this is the way that I did it. So there's kind of these 4 main periods of human history that I'm talking about, at least as far as academics are concerned. So the first period would be, and these, by the way, are all different types of philosophy. So the first period would be the Greek period, Greek philosophy. There's a lot of good stuff there. It's kind of like the genesis of our academic thoughts, really, not just for philosophy, but for a lot of other fields too, like mathematics and things like that. Even physics, Aristotle was originated in some of the books that Aristotle wrote. So, but we made more developments, and that's great. But so after we get done with the Greeks, we go into medieval philosophy. We're thinking the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, whatever you want to call it. Depending on, different historians will use these terms more specifically, but I'm talking about generally the Middle Ages, right? So by the way, when, if you're thinking like, well, where's the sort of shift in the AC, BC, BC, AC type thing, it's kind of like you can put Greek philosophy on both sides of that, but usually medieval philosophy kind of has to be on the Common Era. So, and I said AC, I meant to say AD, Ad Domini, right, in the year of our Lord. So that is what comes after, and just as far as BC. So after the medieval period, so we got Greek, medieval, then we get modern periods. So this is, you think of all of the very proper people with their, very fancy jackets and ascots, and, the girls with the big poofy dresses, and, everyone's wearing lots of, sometimes people wear feathers and things like that. But usually we're not, I don't think I'm going to be using this in the 1500s. I think it's more 1600s, 1700s. And then probably not too much. Well, maybe a little bit of 1800s, late or maybe 1800s and maybe early 1900s. But I'll circle back to that. And then analytic philosophy. And so instead of doing contemporary era, the contemporary stuff, since in the 19th century and the 20th, no. This is the 21st century and 21st century, and the 19th century to some respect. There's really only continental and analytic philosophy. The continental approach is not as rigorous, okay? It more has to do with emotions, with the heart, and that's going to be more applicable in psychology. But it's not, when we're doing formal logic, we want to look at the analytics. So instead of saying Greek, medieval, modern, and contemporary, what I said was Greek, medieval, modern, and analytic, because that kind of tells you which side of the distinction we're on for this argument. To my knowledge, and this is true, but there's not a lot of continental philosophers, talking about the modal ontological argument. Now, I'm talking about like the big names, right? Not every person who's ever done research on it, obviously, but so that's why I'm talking about analytic philosophy. Those are the main divisions of the historical analysis. I could tell you also, each person that's under each heading. I think what I want to do though is talk about kind of my thesis proof and just give you the big high level things. So the reason here that I want to give the big high level things and not go too much into the details is so that you kind of have that context, you understand where I'm coming from, and when I do start going into the rigorous details of just reading my thesis proof or my thesis, that it's understandable, it's clear, but you kind of know where I'm coming from. You understand the larger context, and that way you're not just completely lost, right? So and so this is the kind of the subcategories of the thesis proof itself. So we've got opening considerations, we've got, now I do an introduction to the contemporary objections that have been launched against this argument. I talk about some of the specific problems that might be specific to this argument. I know I said specific problems that are specific to this argument, but you know what I mean. I'm talking about individual problems, not just general problems. So opening considerations, introduction to contemporary objections, then these two, which I was just talking about, the specifics are the incoherence of modality in general, right? You can't really have a modal ontological argument if modality itself is incoherent. And that would be, we're kind of thinking about Quine, B.W. Quine there, and some of the things that have been said around that. And then we're going to be looking at the incoherence of theism. So if theism is incoherent, then the conclusion of the modal ontological argument can't really get off the ground. It can't, you can never get there if theism itself is incoherent. It's like it shoots down the whole argument. And I think I have like a nice little quip in here somewhere about saying, well, like within the last 50 years or something, the objections to the modal analogical argument have been so stringent, or something like that, that if it fails because it's not modal, it's not theistic, and it's not an argument or something like that. I have to read the specifics of it, but that was kind of a fun thing to write. Also, even though this is a note that I put, even though this is an analytic treatise, it reads very much like continental philosophy. And the reason for that is twofold. My teacher is very much a continental philosopher, and so when he speaks, when he talks, when he relates to people, it's in that continental vein. And so you can see a lot of that in this writing. The spirit, that is, not the content, is not borrowed or anything like that, but the kind of the spirit of the metaphors and things like that kind of will definitely jump out at you and grab your attention. So the last sort of subheading under the thesis proof is the Oxford School. So this, I believe this should be Richard Swinburne, J.R. Lucas, people like that. Just seeing what they've had to say about the ontological argument, and I think I'm picking out people who here disagree with it, and then I try to tell you, like, what do I think about why they are or are not correct. And if they don't like the ontological argument, it's going to be trying to analyze first what is true, right? We don't want to just blindly say, oh my gosh, there's we already agree with the conclusion, so now we're going to try to prove the proof. Right, we want to say, okay, what is true first, and then deduce what other things are true. That's just we want to be intellectually honest, right? So, and I really tried to do this because at this time, when I was going through this ontological argument and everything, I wasn't entirely sure whether or not God existed, but that wasn't my concern, whether I felt it or not, because I could tell you at that time I probably didn't. But my concern was to figure out what is true, what is truth, right? And I kind of had the idea in my head that, facts, it's like the whole thing that people say, facts don't care about your feelings. So yeah, those are the 5 divisions of the thesis proof, and I went over 4 divisions of sort of Greek philosophy, or the historical analysis. So I think I've kind of laid the groundwork here for just what I'm going to be doing, what's going on here, and I'm going to check the time again. Yeah, so I've laid kind of groundwork for fundamentally what's going on here, and I hope this isn't too intimidating, but if you're an academic philosopher or something like that, you're probably going to be eating this up, and you'll love it. And if this is kind of new for you, maybe go check out some of the other videos that I've done, and maybe see if those are good. But yeah, I'm gonna try to make this as understandable as possible here. But yeah. So those were the things, and I've been wanting to do something like this for quite some time now, for just a while, because I really like this. I've never found the time and also the confidence. My confidence of what would everybody, literally every academic, say if they're reading this, and it's kind of ridiculous, because they're specializing in things that are usually not this, and so their comments aren't always helpful. That's number 1. Number 2, there was a long time for which I was like, oh my gosh, is this idolatry? I don't know, and I was just insecure about that, and so yeah, I know that God's with me now, and I really believe that this is honoring to Him, and that's what I'm doing it. And so let's keep going though. Let me just break down each of these topics, because I know I went through the historical analysis, but I really do want to say like who I'm talking about under each subcategory, right? So I'll just start at the top and go from the Greek philosophers. So we got to talk about my boy Aristotle. Well, I can't say my boy Aristotle because let's be a little bit more serious about this. But Aristotle, he's one of the best. He's kind of the third member of the Socrates, Plato, Aristotle triad. The reason that I'm talking about him is because there are a lot of historians, historians of philosophy, I guess, that they they think that what Aristotle has written in the Organon, some of it touches on modal logic itself. So it's kind of like the beginning point. So you got to start with Aristotle. And some people will even say it went before him. So yeah, I went there. The next person I wanted to talk about was Diodorus Cronus. There's like a sea battle, and he has some kind of interesting modal analysis there. So really this historical analysis is not just analyzing the ontological argument itself, but it's like, okay, if we're going to do a modal ontological argument, then we need to understand where modality came from, and we need to understand what it is. Okay, so that's why I'm talking about Aristotle, Diodorus Cronus, and then some of the stuff with Chrysippus the logician. I'm pretty sure, because this is the third division here, I'm pretty sure I talked about Tarski and some stuff there. He's like a big name much later on. But yeah, I think there was some good stuff there. So I'd have to, again, it's been a while since I've seen this. So, just looking there. And then let me just see if I can, I'll probably go through the medieval, the modern, and the analytic philosophy. And then that'll be this first part. And then next time I'll get into the reading of it. So, with medieval philosophy, the philosophers that I'm thinking about here are Anselm, Bonaventure, and Duns Scotus. And I tried to pick those to not just be your same tired old Anselm Guanillo and Thomas Aquinas, or something like that. It's like, they had okay things to say, but it's like we're going to get into that stuff anyways in the modern period. So let's just talk about people who actually can bring new things to the table. And I think here is where I start doing some creative dialoguing with some of the characters, and I try to have fun and everything. And so I think it really it turns out well. So yeah, that's medieval philosophy. Modern philosophy, I talk about Spinoza. There's a lot of cool things there. We're talking about what is the relationship of God to space, and is God part of space or space part of God? How do we separate those? I would have to look at this. I'm pretty sure Spinoza was a pantheist or maybe a panentheist. So I try to talk about some of those issues here. And then Leibniz, you got to talk about Leibniz if you're going to be talking about some of this stuff. And then Frege, just because I think some of this had more to do with logic itself in general, because modal logic is a type of logic in general. So that is why I talked about Spinoza, Leibniz, and Frege. And then analytic philosophy, I try not to do the whole tired, and not to throw these guys under the bus, but the whole tired Charles Hartshorne, Norman Malcolm, ontological argument, blah, 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 blah. I wanted to talk about the stuff that was really, for me, that was really enjoyable, which would be Kurt Gödel's ontological argument, which is literally, it's like a ball out of left field, because, I don't know, we don't talk about it or people don't talk about it too much, then it gets into theorem proving and blah, 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 blah. We'll talk about that later. So Kurt Gödel, and then Alan Plantinga, who you literally can't not talk about Plantinga if you're going to talk about the ontological argument, just because of his role in reviving it and just, formalizing some of it. So yeah, this is kind of the high level of what I'm doing in this thesis, and thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a good day.